boy, my dear friends, this is a very exciting one. We're talking about Ahsoka Season 2. Recently, Dave Filoni shared writing on the second season is going well. And as he's been writing it, he says a few things have clicked into place, and he's got a much better idea about where things are going to go. Now, considering The Mandalorian and Grogu is currently in production, and as you would expect, he's helping Jon Favreau with the production of it, I'd imagine the movie is going to tie into what's going to be explored in the second season, but more so to do with what's going on in the known galaxy. If there are going to be any connections between the movie and what's going to be explored in Ahsoka Season 2, it will no doubt concern the New Republic. I'm thinking Hera and Ezra. Maybe a small tease at the end of the movie of them wanting to go and rescue Ahsoka and Sabine. I mean, heck, there might even be a reunion with Zeb. When it comes to Peridea, and we're talking about Ahsoka Tano, Sabine Wren, Huyang, and of course, Baylan and Shin, those are going to be a mystery until the second season of the Ahsoka show releases. Hopefully we don't have to wait too long. But I do want to dive into something which I haven't really spoken about since the first season ended. So my dear friends, as you're probably aware if you've been following my channel closely, I have made a ton of theory videos about Baylan, how his story can continue without Ray Stevenson if they're going to recast, if they're going to just allude to him. Well, Dave Filoni says we're going to see more of him in some way, shape or form. But one aspect, or should I say one character, who is going to be very important to the future of Baylan's arc which I've not seen mentioned, is the very person he just abandoned, Shin. The common misconception is that now they've parted ways, she will have nothing to do with his future, but I don't think that's the case. As you're gonna see, letting Shin go is gonna come back to haunt him. Now that she is working on her own with the mercenaries, the assumption has been she's going to defect. But I've got a different proposition. One that is separate from the popular Abeloth theory. You know, some people are saying Shin is going to become Abeloth or be possessed by her. That's not the direction I was thinking. But instead, Ivana Sakno's character playing a bigger role in the second season, helping Ahsoka and Sabine. There is a very strong possibility Shin is going to have her own motives, now that Baylan abandoned her to pursue his own goals. And in this process, since we know from that illustration that Dave Filoni did that Ahsoka and Sabine are going to be looking for Baylan, if Shin also decides to go after him, and there could be a plethora of reasons for this, either she wants to return to her former master, she wants answers, maybe whatever's calling to Baylan is also calling to her, maybe, she wants revenge over Baylan, wants to kill him, maybe she's going to become more powerful in the Force. Whatever her motive, she might become an unlikely ally to Ahsoka and Sabine. They might start as adversaries, but decide that since they have a shared goal of going after Baylan, they can set aside their differences and work together to find him. After all, Peridea is a dangerous place, unpredictable, and for all we know, enormous. And so throughout the season, through Shin, we learn more about Baylan, more about the stories he told Shin, more about his past, and Shin can tell us little clues to what Baylan was after. Small pieces of the puzzle she is starting to put together, but doesn't understand the implications of. She was the person closest to Baylan, positioned to have some kind of grasp of things he spoke about, although he didn't mention it prior to their arrival, so it could be scarce. But maybe prior to this mission, he mentioned things which could be breadcrumbs and clues. In this way, the mystique surrounding Baylan Skoll is maintained, while you also get a lot more character development for Shin, understanding what she wants, her perspective as the abandoned apprentice. Baylan thought he was built for something more, and I think what most fans have missed is that it wasn't just him saying he's gonna go pursue whatever it is that's calling to him, whether it's a Mortis god, the mother, something related to the Zepho, whatever it is. It's more the fact he underestimated his Padawan. He saw her path, her future, her purpose as separate to his own, but lesser than his own. And so, if I were to make a prediction, I would say Dave Filoni is going to use this opportunity to prove Baylan wrong, to give Shin more of an importance than he knew. In Season 1, Baylan spoke of the rise and fall of governments, political systems, the Empire, the Republic, the Jedi, the Sith, and Shin asked him if it was their turn now. And he replied, that kind of power is fleeting, that he is seeking something more, something on Peridea that calls to him. Something which Dave Filoni alluded to is this kind of prophetic self-importance Baylan imposes on himself. How does Baylan know the power calling to him isn't just using him? How does he know it's not going to call to Shin? In that moment, Baylan had a kind of eureka awakening, where he no longer needed Shin. In the same way I think this bigger power is going to use Baylan and then toss him aside, that's exactly what he did to Shin, raising her, training her, acting as a father figure, and then just throwing her away. Think of how Shin must have felt, and I'm hoping Dave Filoni turns that pain, that frustration, that anger into a muse for Shin. Whether she goes full dark side, full revenge, full path of destruction with Baylan as the target, or whether they make her turn to the light. This aspect of Shin's story is something I'm not seeing anyone talk about, and yet, to me it's one of the most fascinating things that a second season of Ahsoka could give us. And then there's the big question, with Thrawn now posing the biggest threat to the New Republic. What if Shin becomes one of the other main villains? One which maybe Luke Skywalker will have to face, depending on if these characters ever make it off Peridea. And part of this could be Shin being the second part of whatever Baylan is looking for. After all, they were named after two wolves from Norse mythology that you can't really separate, ones who chase the moon and the sun. So I believe wherever Baylan's journey lands him, he will not be able to separate himself from his Padawan, but at least we get Shin's perspective. She worked with him for some time, and I'd love to learn the reason he took her under his wing in the first place. So, how will they do this? Well, imagine a different scenario. It could very well be the case, in Shin's confusion and finding herself in this position where she has to navigate things by herself, instead of deciding to work with Ahsoka and Sabine, she could lash out and try to hunt them down first. But this is where things get interesting for me, because imagine if a bit of time has passed. Things are a bit more, let's say, feral on Peridea. Thrawn is long gone, back in the known galaxy. Baylan is off, listening to the shadows and the voices speaking to him. And Shin has kind of lost her mind a bit, learned to adapt with the mercenary group, but also become a bit more wild. That to me could be so exciting in terms of the possibilities when you're talking about her mindset, emotions and pain she's had time to reflect on. Perhaps she's gone further down the path of darkness since the first season. And so maybe we start the season with an evolved Shin. Maybe if it was the mother calling to Baylan, maybe it's because he was with someone she wants to possess, Shin. And so imagine a scenario where Baylan is kind of the yin to Shin's yang, and they can't really achieve this without both of them. And then Skoll is the one who has to go seek out Shin, but I don't think she's going to want to take him back. So there's so many different character dynamics they could explore with this relationship, and how it all ties into Mortis, how it ties into Anakin's Force Ghost. The possibilities are endless. But what I'm saying, my dear friends, it could go either way for Shin. She could be curious about the Mortis gods, which Ahsoka could fill her in on if they decide to be allies. But Baylan's mission has left open many unanswered questions, and while until this point we were so hyperfixated on Baylan himself, we need to remember that Shin is the other half of it, and also how Dave Filoni doesn't write characters like this to just be left unexplored. So I can't wait to find out the direction he plans to take with her. And some say Shin's story is a perfect mirror reflection of Ahsoka Tano, and the Padawan struggled to accept what her master became. Is the same going to be true of Shin? Is she going to find herself in a position where she can't accept the path Baylan has gone down? Are they going to have to face each other, the same way Ahsoka faced Vader in Twilight of the Apprentice? What do you guys think? What do you think Shin Hati's endgame is? And how do you think the second season is going to play out? Let me know your thoughts on everything we spoke about in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, my dear friends, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and why not check out our Patreon? The link is down below. Until the next one, my dear friends, may the Force be with you, always.